But how fascinating is it that we can still ride this pass in its original form as it was built between 1861 and 1867. Sure, that's a long time ago.
In this series, I ride the Big Three to commemorate the extraordinary legacy of Thomas Bain, master road builder in South Africa. This is the spectacular Swartberg Pass, the challenging Baviaanskloof, and the beautiful Prince Alfred's Pass. It takes me on a journey of more than 2,200 kilometers from Cape Town all the way to Port Elizabeth and back. Thanks for joining me on this experience and to share the views.
Hello and welcome to Werner's View. If you watched the previous video, you will know that I'm now departing from exactly the same spot where I greeted you at the end of the previous video, and this is in the town of Avontuur. What a great name for a place to start my next adventure, because Avontuur is of course the Afrikaans word for adventure, and nobody really knows where the name Avontuur comes from, but the river that flows through the town is also called Avontuur. And the name of that river was already known since 1778, so there's the long history. Okay, this is now, as I said, the start of the next adventure, and this is the end of tar road. We immediately jump onto dirt road here at Avontuur to, of course, start riding the Prince Alfred's Pass. Now, if you've been following this series, you will know I'm calling this series Riding the Big Three, and the Big Three, of course, refers to the master road builder, Thomas Bain. I've selected, in my opinion, three of his biggest construction achievements, and I rode them, well, I'm riding them all in this series. The first one was the Swartberg Pass. So that was shown to you already in a few videos back, and then in the last two videos or so, I've ridden the Baviaanskloof, which was also built by Thomas Bain, more than 200 kilometers long. And then the third one is the Prince Alfred's Pass, and that is what we are starting now. In many ways, the Prince Alfred's Pass is also considered one of his biggest engineering achievements, because this pass is the longest publicly accessible pass in South Africa. So typically when you ride a pass or drive a pass, it might be 8 kilometers. If it's really long, maybe 20 kilometers long for a pass. But the Prince Alfred's Pass is a continuous pass for 68 kilometers. So it takes us all the way here from Avontuur down to the coast in Knysna, and I expect to see a lot of variation. I mean, we just departed from the Karoo, so we're not really in the Karoo anymore, but the landscapes, the vegetation, everything should be changing a lot. So much so that we will end up in the Knysna forest as we exit this pass. I've been looking forward to riding this pass for a long time, and I'm so glad that I can bring it now to you in Werner's View. And we will certainly have a bit of a closer look at all the interesting turns and viewpoints of this extraordinary pass. Thanks for joining me again. I really appreciate all the comments, all the interaction. And for those of you that express appreciation for the videos, I of course enjoy doing the rides, I enjoy making the videos, but it is your comments and confirmation that really makes it all worthwhile. So thank you very much. Yeah, so Thomas Bain built this pass in 1861 to 1867 with 270 convict laborers. It seems like that was typically in those days how it was done, because most of his other work was also done with convict laborers, like building the Swartberg Pass and then also building the Baviaanskloof road. Yeah, it took a number of years. I mean, 1861 to 1867, understandable, because this is quite a long pass, and it immediately starts with a few twists and turns. I'm not alone. It seems like I'm going to have a fellow motorcycle rider with me on the Prince Alfred's Pass today. But this is of course a popular road for motorcyclists to take. And it is just so closely located to the exit, the western exit of the Baviaanskloof. So one can easily do this in a continuous trip. So as with all my previous trips, I'm also doing this trip with my trusted Honda CRF 300 Rally. Yeah, this bike has already proven itself through and through during this series. I mean, the roughest road I took was down Knysna into Diepwalle, there from the Swartberg Pass. But there were also quite a number of rough patches in the previous 2 videos or so when I rode through the Baviaanskloof. Now this bike, I always say, I feel can take me anywhere. And if I had any slight doubt left, this series has proven that I don't have to worry. I just love this bike. You can see how the road snakes down here. So I think in this pass there's going to be a continuous up and down, and then of course crossing rivers and small rivers running down from the mountain. So I think with a pass of this length, it's inevitable that there's going to be a lot of variation. Rode Elsdraai, that is the name. So I suppose many places in this pass also got names. I don't know this pass as well as I do Baviaanskloof. I've only ridden it once. That was on my other channel, Backroad Chronicles, which I do with my wife, my lovely wife Annelie. And that was part of, well, the final trip in our Karoo series. So if you want to go and see how we drove this pass and stayed in a wonderful place called Cottage, please make sure to go and have a look at that video. I will put the link in, and if you like what you see on Backroad Chronicles, please subscribe. We will appreciate it a lot. But today it's only the second time I ride this pass, and it's the first time I'm doing this by motorcycle. Yeah, I'm loving the twists at this elevated position. Just beautiful, beautiful views. Yo. The end destination for this trip today is of course the town of Knysna. That is the natural, well, end of the Prince Alfred's Pass. The beautiful town of Knysna, or in Afrikaans we say Knysna, is where I will also stay over for tonight. So I'm looking forward to visiting that beautiful town again. I find it fascinating to have the open spaces and then the road disappearing or crawling you through some of the denser vegetation. I love this variation. Yeah, but the drop on this side is hectic. Yo, you don't want to go over there. Yeah, there you can see some of the dry stone work of Bain on the opposite side. I'm not sure how visible it is on this camera, but that is the famous technique that Bain has used for basically all his passes, and I suspect he learned his trade from his father, Andrew Bain. But I think Bain is probably the one credited with mastering this technique. I mean, look at these stones. As far as I understand, this is dry stone, so there's no cement or binding material. It is simply stacked in a particular way. Well, I can be wrong. Please help me if I'm wrong. I don't know much about it, but I'm making a few assumptions. But the fact is, these structures remain intact. even though it was built 160 years ago. So I find it amazing because you can see the slope here required significant building up of the road on the side. So this is continuous stonework all the way now. Yeah, this must be hard labor to build this. But how fascinating is it that we can still ride this pass in its original form as it was built between 1861 and 1867. Sure, that's a long time ago. But we are descending ever more and ever further into this beautiful, beautiful valley. I just made a stop here next to the road. The batteries of the cameras needs changing. Now, so the batteries of this Action 4 camera is so easy to change. You just clip it open on the side, and then I always have two batteries extra for each camera. So in this little tank bag I've got the charged up batteries, and I will simply replace it like this. I don't even have to get off the bike, so it's quite a quick process. Then I just switch on the camera again. So this one is connected, as I discussed about 2 videos back, to a wireless mic, the DJI Mic 3, and it should pick it up automatically, but it doesn't always do it. Ah, there it does. So it tells me the mic is still 40%, and you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it's picking up the mic there, and I can then just continue with the recording. So really just a few seconds to change the battery. Yeah, so now I can do the same with this camera. So again, I don't even have to take off the helmet. I simply replace it with a charged up battery here in my tank bag. And when I do my recordings, I typically do I do everything in two feet. So the camera looking back and also the camera looking to the front. So I always match it up so that I can always have a backwards looking perspective. And as I explained in previous videos, I also then do sound recordings differently for the 2 cameras. So you will see that this camera is wired up, and it's got this Boya cable. It's wired up to a lav mic in my helmet, and the one I'm speaking to now is wired with the wireless mic. And this is simply to have a backup for sound. I ran into issues sometimes when, if I only have this sound, the connection sometimes, probably due to rattles or whatever, does not connect so well, and then I lose all sound recording for that particular ride. So now I've got 2 sounds, one through the wireless mic and one through the lav mic, and I can have the benefit of using the best sound quality, whichever gives me the best at any particular situation. Yeah, so I hope you find that interesting, just sharing a bit on my mic and battery change processes. But let's continue. The next stop will be in Vlugt, but I think there's going to be a few beautiful things to see. It's only 5.5 kilometers to Vlugt. Yeah, suddenly it's quite lush here. There must have been some rain here as well, because there's a number of wet patches. Oh, even muddy in some parts. Look at this. Yeah, this is gonna make the bike dirty, but it's all good. It's part of the adventure. I now made a stop here next to the river after we've descended already quite a bit, but the road is still going down. But I think this is probably some of the most beautiful parts of the Prince Alfred's Pass. And I'm just going to have a bit of a look at the bridge, but this also gives us the opportunity to have a bit of a closer look at that dry stone building technique that Thomas Bain has perfected during his long career as master road builder. But I can imagine that this particular section of the road must have taken quite an effort to build. Let's have a closer look and see how high up it had to be built to just make the road through. This must have taken a lot of effort and a lot of time. Let's just have a bit of a closer look at this stonework here in the river.
it is quite large boulders that are used for this. So it fascinates me how hard labor this must have been. Sure. Now, this is a particularly narrow section. So you had no choice but to cross the little river here. I think from that side you actually have quite a nice view underneath the bridge. Yeah, indeed, from here you can see straight through to the other side. It seems like the bridge is going straight into solid rock. Fascinating.
Okay, let's continue. The Vlugt is also a town with some interesting history, and it is very close. Yo, no, this is steep. Now I say again, this section, building it must have been quite a feat. Jy loer nog. That means you are still looking. I'm not sure why that is on the rock, but making a bit of fun. Tata Rita se gat. Oh, I'm learning a lot of new names today. Lots of blind turns here. You can simply not go too fast. There's no way of seeing anything coming from the front. Yeah, now we are suddenly through the poort and we made it to the town of the Vlugt. So this is where the Keurboom's river flows, and this is where we cross it. But the Vlugt has got a very interesting history, because you just make a stop here and I will talk a bit about it.
Yes, I'm not sure if this is the house that Thomas Bain built. It certainly looks quite old. I mean, he built the house in 1862. If you look at the stonework here, that could very well be the house that Thomas Bain built for his family. Because I know from information I read that you can rent it out as self-catering accommodation, and indeed this is what the sign is saying there. There's also some stairs going up here on the side. Yeah, so for a multi-year project like building the Prince Alfred's Pass, it was better for Bain to bring his whole family, and they just stayed in this beautiful kloof during the time of construction. But there's also some tragedy associated with Bain's stay here in the Vlugt. Apparently one of his daughters slipped and fell downstairs and actually died. So there was a bit of heartbreak for Thomas Bain during the construction of this pass. I find it quite sad that he had to associate the Vlugt then also with that personal tragedy.
I find the history of the Vlugt quite fascinating, given the close link it of course has with the history of the Prince Alfred's Pass. Maybe I should just mention there's another very interesting place here in the Vlugt called Angie's G-Spot, and this is what you see here in front. I will just read the sign here. I will not visit it today, but it says hot beer, lousy food, bad service and cock accommodation. So this is what you will get at Angie's G-Spot. which is of course all completely wrong. When Anneli and myself did this ride, we made a stop there. We even had an interview with the owner, Harold. The lush valley down there. Looks like some beautiful houses. Yeah, it looks so inviting. There are some wooden houses also a bit higher up. I don't know if you can see it. No, I think this is a popular valley to come and stay and visit. And of course to ride this spectacular pass. Yeah, we are climbing quite a bit. So it was basically a continuous descent to the Vlugt, and now we are just climbing out of the valley where the Vlugt is situated. Again, the stonework can be seen in this section of the road. Look at the sheer drop down here. It feels like if you fall down here, you roll down right down to the bottom of this valley. Yeah, this is incredible. It seems like one of the sharpest turns in the pass is upon us. Sure. It backs up itself completely. I've not yet spoken about where the name came from, of course. So Prince Alfred was the son of Queen Victoria, I think her fourth child. So it is simply named after Prince Alfred, the son of Queen Victoria. And of course it was built, like all Bain's passes were built during the reign of Queen Victoria. So that is why the name, or Victorian history, is so closely linked to not only the passes but many of the towns that we were going through. I mean, Victorian architecture is probably what dominates the architecture in the towns. But certainly the Prince Alfred's Pass then also has a strong link to Victorian history. Yeah, now the road is starting to feel more like Baviaanskloof road. So much fun. Now, this is a proper descent, so it obviously needed to cross this ridge to now descend quite a bit. Now this is some of the steepest parts we've ridden so far. We are climbing quickly. And it's a continuous climb. Many turns, but it's a continuous climb. But oh, so beautiful. Yeah, need to keep my eye on the road as well. But I want to see the views, which is now suddenly very far down. It's interesting to see how the vegetation changes as we progress. We are getting closer to the sea all the time, and then there's also quite big variation in altitude. So these yellowish flowers, or these yellowish shrubs, are becoming a bit more common now, quite plentiful. Yeah, so this is obviously some pine forests here. So I think we will see how we transition from planted forest to natural forest. Of course, big parts of the Knysna forest is now planted forests with pine and so on. But it's all part of the changing vegetation landscape, some man-made. Yo, suddenly it's so much cooler under these trees. I can just feel it in my face. Yeah, Valley of Ferns is in here. Let me just turn in, have a look. There are picnic spots down there. Let me just make a quick stop here.
So this is the Valley of Ferns, or in Afrikaans the Dal van Varings. And it seems the system that you need to follow here is to self-issue yourself with a permit. But I'm not so sure there's anything in this box. Let's have a look. Indeed, there's nothing, so I don't think the issuing or the self-issuing of permits is what is done anymore, but there's lots of picnic spots here. Maybe there's a different place where you can get a permit. But I'm just having a quick look. I think you are getting a sense of a little bit of the forest here. Yeah, just look how lush and dense it is in here. Sure. It's quite hot in the sun, but as I said, it's a bird of a cooler breeze that is suddenly blowing in one's face, so this is very welcome.
Okay, that was the Valley of the Ferns. What a beautiful picnic spot. So if you're looking for a tranquil, beautiful picnic spot here amongst the forests, plants, this is the place. But I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for a viewpoint, and this is what we will be getting here in front. It's only 200 meters or so to make the turn, and this is it. And this is the road to Spitzkop. They call it Spitzkop Eysterneck Nature Reserve. Okay, this is unfortunate. They say the launching and flying of drones is prohibited. Okay, so I cannot fly the drone here, but let's go and have a look. Let me just see if there's anything in this. Yeah, there's no self-issuing. But let's go and have a look. But Spitzkop is a very interesting place because this is the highest viewpoint in the Knysna area, so we should be able to see very far once we get there. But let's make our way. The viewpoint is actually right up there, so this is an interesting little road to ride to get there. Here we can certainly feel a bit more of a breeze. But what a nice little road to ride. This is feeling a bit more like Baviaanskloof. But yeah, just look at the vegetation. Isn't it stunningly beautiful? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I would have loved to fly a drone, but this is not allowed anymore. But what I can mention is that when Annelie and myself visited Spitzkop in our BRC video, there was certainly no sign at that time, that was probably about 2 years ago, that a drone can't be flown. So I do have drone shots when it was probably still legal to fly a drone. But yeah, it is a bit unfortunate that a drone cannot be flown to appreciate it, but I must say, one goes so high up that the views are simply spectacular in any case. No drone really needed. Oh, this is steep. Yeah, and we made it to the top of Spitzkop. How beautiful.
And when you stand here, you can see all the way to the sea, but you can also see the sea of forest. Yeah, it is amazing. I'm not sure one will be able to actually see it on this camera, but I will try and show you. The sea is there in the distance, and then across from this hill there's a green sea of forest, which is the Knysna forest. And then all the way one can see to Knysna, to the Knysna Heads. So this is really an incredible viewpoint. Highly recommend it. So now it is a steep descent, but all the while you can pull your eyes away from the road. There's some beautiful views. So my next stop is Diepwalle, the forest station, and I see this is about 11 or 10 kilometers away. There's not far to go, but that will take us right into the Knysna forest. Still continuing on the Prince Alfred Pass road, of course. I've really made good progress. It is now only 1:15, so I think it will be very nice to have a snack to eat for lunch, maybe at Diepwalle Forest Station. Okay, this is the Prince Alfred Pass. Again, let's continue. And suddenly the sunlight disappears here in a tunnel of forest. Yeah. How beautiful, beautiful. Look at all the ferns next to the road. Yeah. When one rides like this, it feels like endless forest. So, and of course, there were elephants in the Knysna forest. Apparently there's one left. That's quite sad, of course, to have only a single elephant left. But it was spotted the other day. I remember a news article on this. But I believe there's only one elephant left. But in the past there were quite a few. So it was quite a danger for people coming into the forest to chop some wood and so on. And also the forestry activities that happened many years ago. And that is also the theme of Knysna Bos, the book that Mathieu wrote. Elephant is playing a key part of that story. Sure, now, rain must have fallen quite recently. This road is quite wet, especially in the shady parts. I'm not always sure how slippery it is. It is certainly a beautiful sunshine day. Yeah. I had my bouts of rainy weather, even including hail, previously in this, or earlier on in this series. So if you've not seen it, please go and have a look. Oh, at that trip that I ended up in Staterville, I had to fight quite a hailstorm. So I've experienced all on this series. So to have this beautiful sunshine weather in the forest, I think it's quite special. Okay, so the King Edward VII big tree is down there. I'm not going to go in now. Let's just go up here to the Diepwalle tea house. Yeah, this part of this forest is really dark. Ah, we made it to Diepwalle.
There is a fee payable, so just make a stop. Just looking for a bit of shade, yeah. Well, this is good news. So I spoke to the people there at the office. So Mina is working there and she said if I want to go to the museum, no problem, and the tea house is also open. And she says if I only go into the tea house and the museum, there's no cost. So there's the tea garden. Let me just see where I should park. I would prefer parking in front of the tea house. Let me just see if I can make a turn around. Maybe there in the shade under the tree. We park here. I'm here at the Diepwalle tea room and I just had a wonderful chat with Kayleen. She's going to make me some toasted sandwiches and tea. I think seeing that this is a tea room, let me have some tea. I didn't have much of a breakfast this morning, so this is going to be very welcome. Yeah, this Diepwalle tea room, the building is of course dedicated to the forestry activities that took place here, and there is some history there of some of the people that worked in this forest station. So I think the building itself has had many purposes, and probably a place to stay in the past, and a house and accommodation places for people that had to work in the forest. But today it is a tea room, and it also got accommodation. I think upstairs there's accommodation units, and it is simply called the Diepwalle Tea Garden, and it is then all here at the main office of the Diepwalle Nature Reserve. Some wooden floors, and now there's just tables in every room. What a pleasant place to just come and have some tea or coffee and a snack to eat when you are busy with some activities in the forest. I'm feeling a bit hungry, so I ordered 2 toasted sandwiches. This is going to be good. Sure, that was now a lovely cup of tea, toasted sandwiches. I'm feeling quite refreshed. So now I'm just making a stroll away here from the Diepwalle Tea House to the Forest Legends Museum. So the museum is just here on the other side of the info office. And it is an interesting place to visit because it displays the history of forestry in the Knysna forest over quite a long time, and also how the people that cut down the trees, the yellowwoods, and made a living from forestry, how they lived. It must have been a tough life. This is old Susie, the steam engine. So this was then probably to assist with some of the heavy work of pulling out logs out of the forests and so on. It says here it was used since about 1900. So it was used for 2 days a week to supply power for sawing the timber, and for the rest of the time to winch the logs from the forest. Yeah. Okay, now the museum is open. Let's have a bit of a look. It starts off with a photo of a Knysna elephant. This zinc house represents probably what a house of a forester they look like. Woodcutters contemplating the axing of a forest giant. Oh, and then there's a big display room with indigenous wood samples. How interesting is that?
Look at all the variations. If you're interested in the history of the Knysna forest, this little museum is the place to come. But yeah, it's the next room that contains a magnificent display of the skeleton of a Knysna elephant. Just look at it. Yeah. So this is the skeleton of an elephant bull discovered in 1983 in Harkerville. It's an indigenous forest south of the Garden of Eden. So they found these bones about 10 years after he died of old age. Just look how tall it is. Yeah, just look at these leg bones. Extraordinary. Yeah, so if there's been any doubt that there are or have been elephants in the Knysna forest, this should conclude on that on that point. Yeah. I fit well under this. I'm just about 6 foot, so you can just see even the bottom of the trunk is way above my head. This is extremely tall. I mean, at the shoulder, it must be at least 10 feet tall. Now, this museum, the Forest Legends Museum, is highly recommended. There's lots of information, interesting displays. It talks about the history of the forestry. It talks about the different kinds of wood you get, the animals. And of course, this big skeleton of the elephant is probably the main reason for coming. It's just such a splendid thing to see. So yeah, all I can say is if you find yourself in the Knysna area, make a visit to the Forest Legends Museum. There's also the wonderful Diepwalle tea room where you can have some coffee or tea. It's just a very, very relaxing stop. But yeah, I want to continue now with the trip. Of course, the end destination for today is Knysna. Of course, Knysna is a very beautiful town, lots to see, but I just want to go and have a look at one or two things.
Oh, what a lovely, relaxing stop here at Diepwalle Forest Station. Friendly people at the info center, friendly people at the tea house. Enjoyed my tea and also visited the Forest Legends Museum. But let's continue on the Prince Alfred's Pass. Yes, it might not feel like it, but the Prince Alfred's Pass is still continuing through the Knysna forest. It is another about 20 kilometers or so to reach Knysna, and here there's no wind, so I cannot think of a more idyllic conditions to just spend a bit of time at Diepwalle Forest Station and also just to ride through the forest. It's just simply perfect. Yeah, we are now getting to the end of the Prince Alfred's Pass. Of course, it now looks much, much different to what it looked at Avontuur where we started. So it's about 68 kilometers that we've done now. What a ride, what a ride. I think if you're ever in doubt whether you need to or whether you should drive or ride this pass, do it. It is really a pass of contrasts, the different kinds of vegetation, following the track through the cliffs, on the plateaus, simply stunning and beautiful, and I think an appropriate finish for the riding of the big three passes, which I set myself out to do in this series. Of course, the other two passes and roads that I did, that Thomas Bain has built, the Swartberg Pass and the Baviaanskloof road. This was quite an excursion. But yeah, the series is not coming to an end. The series is continuing because I still need to find my way back to Cape Town. So it's still quite a distance, and I will still be visiting more places along the road, and I will bring this in next videos as well. I'm just enjoying the last part of this road. Okay, we have connected onto the N2 now, so this is where the R339 connects to the N2. We have now made it to the town of Knysna. Yeah, and it's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so quite early. So that was quite good progress down the Prince Alfred's Pass. So a bit more early arrival at my end destination for this trip. But this is the N2 highway and it goes straight through the main street of Knysna, so this can become very, very busy. I want to make a ride down the eastern side of the Knysna Lagoon, so let me just make a turn here to get out of the busy traffic. Yeah, of course, Knysna is very famous for its unique lagoon, which is of course connected to the sea, so it's a saltwater lagoon, and it is connected to the sea there at the famous Knysna Heads. So if we go down the eastern side of the lagoon, we should end up close to the eastern head. So it's about 4 kilometers still. I just want to make a stop there at the eastern beacon, or the east head beacon, so it's down at the water level. There's of course fantastic viewpoints from the top of the heads, but I'm not going to go to the viewpoints today. It is simply a bit risky to park my motorcycle at the top and then walk to the viewpoints. One cannot park close by, so I opted not to do this, but at least let's have a bit of a look at the heads from water level. Yeah, so there in the distance you can see where the lagoon opens up into the sea. Well, I've not researched a lot of history on Knysna, although of course it does have a lot of history. But maybe just to mention that the name of George Rex is quite prominent here in Knysna, and we are actually now on George Rex Drive. George Rex was a British entrepreneur in the early 1800s, and he is more generally referred to or recognized as the person that founded Knysna. He certainly commemorated in the name of this, well, very beautiful road that we are on now. So this is the east head parking area. Just look how beautiful. Yeah. So that is the western head on the opposite side. Yeah. How beautiful is this? So you can see there on top is the viewing points on the top of the eastern head, and that is the Featherbed Nature Reserve. You can see how narrow this passage is from the sea to the Knysna Heads. So you will have difficulty taking a sailing boat through here, so it must have been quite treacherous in the past, and certainly there's a lot of shipwrecks here. Yeah, it might be a bit reflecting in the sun, but on that side is the east head beacon, probably guiding ships through this narrow passage. Okay, so we are departing here from the East Head Beacon. What a beautiful stop, what a beautiful stop. There's many beautiful spots in Knysna. That's just one of them. But I'm looking forward actually to come to my place, or to get to my place for the evening a bit earlier. It gives me just a bit of more time to rest and recover a bit, manage the footage that I've taken, catch up with a few things. I also need to go to the shop a bit, so this will all help. because tomorrow it will be exactly 1 week since I started this series. So this is quite an extensive series. It's an extensive trip. I have never done such a long trip, a whole week. Well, basically, or 8 days, because I'm going from Saturday to the next Sunday. So it's quite a long time away from home as well. So I am running out of a few things, and yeah, I must say my body is taking a bit of a hit. It is quite a bit of effort to stay on the bike every day for most of the time, but I'm loving it, and I'm hoping that the videos that I will be making will be good and that you will enjoy them.
Well, I've now settled in for the night, even though it is still quite early. It's now around 5 o'clock. And let me just show you the place that I'm staying tonight in Knysna. The place is called Shell's Corner Cottage, and what a friendly reception by Michelle. I booked the place through lekkerslaap.co.za, and yeah, what a find. It is a wonderful place, and I'm looking forward to stay here the night. So what is very convenient is that I can bring the bike in from the street through this little pedestrian gate, and then I don't have to park it in the street. I can simply park it here in front of the unit, so you can see the CRF is parked quite securely here, and then you enter the unit through this sliding door. So yeah, quite a spacious room with a double bed, very neat. There's some cupboards on this side, and also a working table, and then a fridge, microwave, and a kitchen area, washing up area, and then a very nice shower, which I've already used to freshen up, and yeah, quite a spacious space. So yeah, I think I'm gonna enjoy the stay here. Shell's Corner Cottage in Knysna. I think it is a good one. This brings me now to the end of the trip for today. Oh, what a ride. Starting there from Avontuur and taking the Prince Alfred's Pass all the way to Knysna. As I said, I wanted to ride this for a long time. Since the start of View, this was on my to-do list, and I'm so glad that I could bring it to you now as part of riding the Big Three. It was a spectacular ride. It is a long pass, it is a varied pass, and then that stop at Diepwalle in the Knysna forest. How special is that? I highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. This is not the end yet. Although I've ridden all 3 of the Big Three that I wanted to ride for this series, I still need to get back to Cape Town, and there's going to be a few interesting stops along the way. Tomorrow morning early, I depart from Knysna. So all the best, keep well, and bye-bye.